Speech off.
Hi guys, it's Paula. Welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do a book update. I didn't do an update last week because I didn't have enough books. But yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this short anyway. So let's just get started. So I started a new American Girl series, the Cecile and Marie Grace series. I've never heard of these in my own childhood, but yeah. They take place in, I think, 1840s New Orleans. The girls are French. Each book is from a different girl's perspective in this series, which is unusual for the American Girl series. The first two books kind of just introduce the families, and they both take place around this Mardi Gras ball. Oh, I forgot to mention Cecile is black and Marie Grace is white. So both of these books kind of take place around this Mardi Gras ball, and they do something that could be dangerous, but Marie Grace perceives as funny because she doesn't know any better. I can't really say more unless I want to spoil the book, which I don't. But if you know, you know. It involves Mardi Gras ball costumes. Anyway, yeah. So that was my only problem with those first two books. Just that they do something really dangerous that could have really dangerous consequences. And Marie Grace is like completely innocent about it. It's not her fault. What does she know? At least in book two, we kind of get from Cecile's perspective that she realizes that that could have been bad. Anyway, then we have Marie Grace and the Orphans. That was the third book I read in that series. I still have to read the last three. Basically, Marie Grace finds an abandoned baby. And it might be an enslaved woman's baby. So they have to find a safe place for it because that's why she left it in the first place, because she didn't want it enslaved. Sorry, that was my Braille note. So yeah, it was like, they're all very high stake books, so I'm enjoying them so far. I can't say too much about them because they're so short, but yeah. Anyway, then I read The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. I gave this one 5 stars. It's her newest book. So, there's a cottage on a cliff, Gabe and Pippa's dream home in a sleepy coastal town. But their perfect house hides something sinister. The tall cliffs have become a popular spot for people to end their lives. Night after night, Gabe comes to their rescue, literally talking them off the ledge. Until he doesn't. When Pippa discovers Gabe knew the victim, the questions spiral. Did the victim jump? Was she pushed? And would Gabe, the love of Pippa's life, her soulmate, lie? As the perfect facade of their marriage begins to crack, the deepest and darkest secrets begin to unravel. They're not kidding when they say this marriage begins to crack. Like, yikes. They start out as this, like, really good couple. I wouldn't say good, but, like, they're, like, your TV couple. Like, they're lovey-dovey. They're so lovey-dovey, it's gross. In a good way. But, yeah, they got secrets. Cracks. And they come out big time. There's mental illness in this. There's, well, yeah, I can't really say more because I'd be spoiling, but there's 2 kids in this as well, which, yeah, makes it all the more dangerous because, you know, you got 2 4-year-olds asking questions about, why did that lady jump? How do you explain that? So, yeah, it was definitely a good read, as Sally Hepworth's books generally are, so I enjoyed it. The next book I read was The Brutal Telling by Louise Penny. It's the 5th book in the Armand Gamache 3 Pine series. I can't really talk too much about this one. This one's, again, about a complicated murder. This one takes place in the bistro. And the thing that sort of sucks about this book, well, it sucks, but it also is, like, high stakes. Like, you need to read it. It's that the suspect is someone we really like in the town. So, yeah, you don't want him to be the bad guy, but he might be. I'm not going to tell you if he is, but he might be. So you're kind of going through this whole book going, please don't be the bad guy. Please don't be the killer. So, yeah, that's why I give it 5 stars, because like I had to read it and see how it went. And it made me want to go straight into the 6th one, but I'm trying to pace myself because you do not want to hear wrap-ups about Louise Penny only, especially when I cannot talk about what happens in the books. So, there's that one. Then I DNF'd 2 books. A Good Mother by Laura Basselin. I was really excited about this one, first of all. It was about this woman who basically... okay, I'll just read the description. I got this one through Lindsay's little library. I'm sorry I had to DNF it, Lindsay. A gripping debut thriller about 2 young mothers, one shocking murder, and a court case that put them both on trial. When a soldier is found stabbed through the heart at a U.S. Army base, there is no doubt that his wife, Luce, is to blame. But was it an act of self-defense, an attempt to save her infant daughter, or the cold-blooded murder of an innocent man? Ambitious public defender Abby is determined to win at all costs. As a new mother herself, she wants to keep Luce out of prison and with her daughter. But when the surprises stack up and shocking new evidence emerges, Abby realizes the task proves far more difficult than she expected and will require a terrible sacrifice. As the trial hurtles toward an outcome no one expects, Abby, Luce, and a captivated jury are forced to answer the question that will decide everything. What does it mean to be a good mother? Okay, so honestly, rereading that description makes me want to pick it up again because the description makes it sound so good. But in reality, I was bored. Not bored exactly, but I needed stuff like Luce's perspective. I need to feel Luce as a person before I care about her, I guess is what I'm saying. And we really just hear from Abby and like the other lawyer that's on the case. And they don't like each other. It's like they're constant bickering. She's having issues with her boyfriend post-baby because she wants to go back to work. She's seen as a bad mom. And, I mean, she loses her kid at like 2 weeks old to start this case. I'm judging a little bit. Whatever. It's a book character. I don't care. My point is that she's just kind of unpleasant. And, I mean, she literally tells her boyfriend, I'm going back to work. And, you know, they had agreed that she would take maternity leave first and then he would take it after the 6 weeks were over or something. And she doesn't want to because she doesn't want anyone to take her case. Like, she's that competitive. I don't know. She just annoyed me. Not because of the work thing necessarily, but just her, like, attitude. Like, and he's like, so what's your solution? And she's like, you take the time off now. Like, they don't have to discuss it because she's a woman and she has a right to work. It's like, great. You have your rights as a working mom, but you still need to discuss it. At least let him know that you want to do this. And, you know, I don't know, put him in daycare, I guess. But she's pretty much demanding that he, like, take the time off. And you know where it's going to end. Probably divorce. I mean, who knows? I don't know. She's just so unlikable. And then there's, like, this scene, kind of a sexual scene that I did not appreciate. It just got icky. Anyway. Then I DNF'd another book. It's called Sworn to Silence, which is another recommendation from Lindsay's little library. And it's so weird because Lindsay, I normally really vibe with Lindsay's books. But this one, I don't know. It's this Amish series, the Kate Burkholder Mysteries, by Linda Castillo. Basically, Kate is a former Amish woman, who is now sent to be a detective in her old hometown where her Amish family lives. And she's like perfect because she can kind of relate to them. So she knows how to work with them. And I found that concept fascinating. But as soon as I got within like 15 minutes into the book, there was like, I've only listened to 15 minutes of the audiobook and there was like 40 F words. So I'm like, okay, really? I am not I don't care if people swear in books. I really don't. But it needs to happen appropriately. Like, authentically. You don't need a swear word every fourth word. And if you do, you clearly need to go back to school. I'm sorry, you just do. And honestly, I drew the line once I heard effing Amish from a cop. I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't like you. So, there was that. Sorry, Lindsay. Convince me to read them. Maybe you can. Because they sounded so good. Maybe I just need to get past the first chapter. I don't know. Then I read Only the Beautiful by Susan Meisner. I gave it 4 stars. So, I'm going to read the description because, yeah. California, 1938. When she loses her parents in an accident, 16-year-old Roseanne is taken in by the owners of the vineyard where she has lived for her whole life as a vine dresser's daughter. She moves into Celine and Truman Calvert's spacious house with a secret, however. Rosie sees colors when she hears sound. She promised her mother she'd never reveal her little understood ability to anyone, but the weight of her isolation and grief proved too much for her. Driven by her loneliness, she not only breaks the vow to her mother, but in a desperate moment lets down her guard and ends up pregnant. Banished by the Calverts, Roseanne believes she is bound for a home for unwed mothers, and having lost her family, she treasures her pregnancy as a chance for a future one. But when she finds out, she is not going to a home of any kind, but to a place far worse than anything she could have imagined. Australia, 1947. After witnessing firsthand Adolf Hitler's brutal pursuit of inherited purity, especially with regard to different children, Helen Calvert, Truman's sister, is ready to return to America for good. But when she arrives at her brother's peaceful vineyard after decades working abroad, she is shocked to learn what really happened 9 years earlier to the vine dresser's daughter, a girl whom Helen had long ago befriended. In her determination to find Roseanne, Helen discovers that while the war had been won in Europe, there are still terrifying battles to be fought at home. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I really liked Roseanne, or Rosie as she's affectionately known. And the place she is sent to is horrifying. The things that were done to her were horrifying, both there and in Truman and Celine's place. Celine is a monster. Yikes. But anyway, honestly, I think the only downside to this book is that I wanted more from Helen, and really it was like the last 3 hours where Helen's part of the book. And that was like the most exciting for me because you got to hear about what happened in Europe for her. And just like the mystery aspect of it all, because we end Rosie's part like 5 years before we start Helen's part. So we know what happens to Rosie up to a point, but then we wonder what happens to her. And so that's like Helen's journey. So like the mystery where you really get into the book is in Helen's part. Not that I wasn't interested in Rosie's section, but you kind of knew things were going to go bad for her. So I wasn't like riveted. I just kind of had to read it through. But I did enjoy her as a character. I felt bad for her. Like she went through a lot that she shouldn't have. So yeah, I like the book. Next is The Things We Keep by Sally Hepworth. This one is very different from The Soulmate. I give this one 5 stars. Anna Forster, in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, at only 38 years old, knows that her family is doing what they believe to be best when they take her to Rosalind House, an assisted living facility. She also knows there's just one other resident her age, Luke. What she does not expect is a love that blossoms between her and Luke, even as she resists her new life at Rosalind House. As her disease steals more and more of her memory, Anna fights to hold on to what she knows, including her relationship with Luke. When Eve Bennett is suddenly thrust into the role of single mother, she finds herself putting her culinary training to use at Rosalind House. When she meets Anna and Luke, she is moved by the bond the pair has forged. But when a tragic incident leads Anna's and Luke's families to separate them, Eve finds herself questioning what she is willing to risk to help them. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I liked Anna a lot. Like, her perspective is funny, and I think Sally Hepworth did a really good job of kind of going into the mind of someone who's losing their memory. Like, she has Anna kind of describe things in a way that you know she doesn't remember what they're called, like the sleeping plank or something. What does she call a bed? I can't remember, but like, and she calls Luke young guy because she can't remember his name. So she repeatedly just calls him young guy. But like, you can see the love between her and Luke, and just, it's really, their relationship is so pure and sad at the same time. But yeah. And her brother Jack they're twins. And her brother Jack is kind of your typical protective brother. He's kind of a jerk too. I don't like him that much, but I understand why he did the things he did. I just didn't like him. And then we have Eve. Honestly, I find Eve's story the most interesting, and they don't really talk about it too much in a description, but basically her husband is like, he was like super rich, but he was basically cheating people out of their money, so that's how her and her daughter Chloe end up needing this job. And Chloe is actually, not Chloe, my God, Clementine. I don't know why I said Chloe. Clementine is her daughter. Clem, they call her. And you actually hear it from Clementine's perspective too. But yeah, they basically end up getting close to the residence. Eve is the cook, and Clementine comes there after school. But yeah, I can't really say too much more about Eve's story, but I actually found her story really interesting, and how she kind of related to the residents and stuff like that. So, I don't know. And she kind of has a little bit of a romance too. It's not like that. It's not super prominent, but yeah. But this book made me cry repeatedly. Keisha from A Book Like You also read it. And actually, she just read it like a couple weeks ago. That's what convinced me to finally read it. I've had it on my Audible library for a while, but I didn't read it just because I didn't have a Braille copy of this one. And I've been reading like books using both. Like, I'll read some of the Braille, and then when I'm not in front of the book, I will listen to it on audio when I'm doing other things. And it makes me go through books faster. So I'm kind of like not always wanting to just listen to only audio, so I've been putting this book off. But boy, am I glad that I finished it. I loved this book, and I think everybody should read it. So yeah. And the last book I read is my favorite. I heard about it from Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails, and who else did I hear it from? There was somebody else who read this book. Was it Lizzie Faye? I don't think so. Bethany? From Bethany Brings Books? I can't remember, honestly. But I know I got it from Katie first. I just know I heard it somewhere else too. But yeah, it's called When the Date Comes by Gabrielle Myers. Okay, I'm going to read the description. Libby has been given a powerful gift to live one life in 1774 colonial Williamsburg and the other in 1914 Gilded Age New York City. When she falls asleep in one life, she wakes up in the other without any time passing. On her 21st birthday, Libby must choose one path and forfeit the other. But how can she possibly decide when she has so much to lose? So I went into this book with reservations. I'll admit it. Like, I was like sure that I would hate the ending because I would want her to be somewhere and she would end up somewhere else. And okay, I did want her to be somewhere and she ended up somewhere else. But the ending, like, I'm not going to tell you the ending, obviously, but the ending was so good. And I did not believe Katie when she said the ending was so good. But it was good. And, like, you have to kind of, you think it's not going to be good. Like, throughout this whole story, one of her paths is so bad, and you think it's going to be terrible in the end for her, because in the end, she doesn't have that's kind of the point of this book. Like, it's Christian fiction, so the point is that God controls your life no matter how much you want to control it yourself. But truly, if you are a full-blown atheist, you can still read this book. Like, completely ignore the God parts if you so desire, because in the end of the day, believe what you want to believe. But the stakes are so high that it's worth it, even if you don't necessarily believe that, even if you don't necessarily want to, like, put your decisions in God's hands. Either way, like, this book is still a great read, because you're, like, in it with her in both timelines, and you want her to choose one, and she ends up having to choose another one for circumstances, and those circumstances are really bad, and you think, like, things are going to be terrible for her, and in the end, it's, like, the best ending I never saw coming, ever. So, yeah. Like, if you want to ignore the God stuff, by all means, do it. Like, there is... At the beginning of this book, I thought, okay, anybody can read this secularly, and you can. But I will admit there is a bit more preachiness toward the end, but that's the point of the book, I think. But again, you really can ignore it if you want to. Like, you don't need to take that as life advice, obviously, if you don't want to. But that stuff aside, this is probably one of the best time travel books I've ever read. And I think everybody should read it, Christian or non-Christian, because just the story alone, like the stakes, the whole thing, wow. And now I need to wait, a week and a half for the next one. I'm so glad that I read it when I did, when the next one's coming out soon, because I need to see what happens next. But yeah, 5 stars. I might do a review on this at some point just to go in more in depth, but I don't want to make this video too long. So anyway, the next book, the books I'm probably going to read next are, well, I'm not sure. I know for sure I'm going to read The English Daughter by Cindy Woodsmall. I got this one through Lizzie Faye Loves Books. Well, I heard about it on her channel, on one of her Amish videos. So I'm very excited to read this one. And then, I'm not sure. I might read the last Sally Hepworth book I have left, The Mother-in-Law. Everybody has read this book, and I was not that interested in it. I mean, mother-in-law dies, daughter-in-law gets blamed. Sounds cliche, but honestly, I'm on a Sally Hepworth kick, so I'm going to read it anyway. I already bought it. And downloaded the Braille version, so yeah. That's really the only plans I have. I'll probably read other things too, but yeah, not sure what that'll be. Anyway, I guess you'll find out in my next update. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and talk to you in my next video. Bye.
Near bottom, stop recording video.